Hi, this is Patsy with a Z. Welcome to Joy on Paper Live, a program for writers and those who dream of writing, and for everyone who wants to know the story behind the book. And boy, I have a lot of books I could talk about with this next author, but we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, somebody from the UK. So here is DARCI HANNAH, and the name of her book is Murder at Lemonberry Tea, and we will explain what lemonberry tea is. Hi, DARCI.
Hi, such a pleasure to be on with you today. Thank you so much, Patsy. I
Well,
really
as I
appreciate
said, a Michigander is a Michigander.
Oh yes, and boy, we're experiencing a lot of snow and cold, so it would only be right to talk about a Michigan book in the snow and cold.
Exactly. It's always perfect. I was born in a blizzard in Michigan, and so I
Um,
know.
Me too. I was born in a blizzard in northern Illinois.
It, I love the snow in those days. Now, of course, I'm in Texas, and I don't appreciate it. I don't
I
appreciate it.
know. There's a point, like my husband and I were talking about that this year, just after plowing the driveway so many times. It's beautiful. The snow is beautiful, but we're like, aren't we getting a little tired of this? Maybe. I don't know. I still can't leave yet, though.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
still
not
love
easy.
it.
It's not easy.
Mhm.
But you have a wonderful book set in Michigan, set along the seashore, the lake shore, and you managed to bring the special feel of Michigan and the lake shore area
Thank
into
you.
it. So this is
Thank you.
wonderful. And
I love Lake Michigan. Yeah, I've always lived around the Great Lakes, and I say write what you know, and I feel having just lived and loved these lakes, especially Lake Michigan, I thought, why not set this book or this series right there and show everybody how wonderful our state is, and just the wonderful water that we have.
so many things. You can go all over Michigan and find delightful things to do, whether it's tulip
Yeah.
season in Holland or
Oh,
strawberry season in
oh yeah.
our upper peninsula. There's always something great. Now, this series is really fascinating. This is book 6. My goodness. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just getting ready to write book 7, and I want to tell you this, you might be the first person to know this, but book 7, the ladies from Beacon Harbor go to the UP for a camping trip. So we're going to be in the UP, which I am so excited to write about. Like
Oh,
I'll be starting that very shortly. So I have it all plotted out, how I do it for the publisher so they can understand how to make the cover, and their covers are gorgeous. But
it's
since
Ken.
yeah, Kensington does such a great job of that. The next cover is gorgeous. I don't know when they'll release it, but I've been wanting to write about the UP, having spent some time, not as much time as you, obviously, up there, but I thought it would be a fun place to take this book number 7. But no, book number 6 was the Lemonberry Tea was so much fun to write. And honestly, when they told me it was going to come out right around Christmas time, I was like, oh, this isn't a Christmas book. It's a summer book. It's just Michigan is the best. And if you love skiing and snow, yes, it's fine in the winter, but Michigan really shines in the summer. And then I thought, as people were telling me, no, we want to read about the summer during the winter.
That
Oh,
is true.
it's like so lemony and bright. It's just we have some water adventure there. We're a lot of lemon inspired baked goods,
Yes.
British inspired baked goods for sure too. But
You should have
anyhow,
you should have baked us something and shown it for
oh,
us.
I would love to. I would love to.
You could do that. Maybe you'll do that, and you'll come back with some of your.
I should. I know we have to be together though, so you can eat it. Yeah, I
That's a
love
good
baking.
idea.
Sometimes when I do book launches, in fact, mostly when I do book launches, I try to bake something from the book and bring it so that people can taste it and hopefully try the recipe, because the recipes are good. They're not. That's one of the things I pride myself on, is that I do love baking. I would call myself an amateur baker, and my brother did own a bakery when we were younger, like in our 30s, and that's where I learned that writing about a bakery is so much better than working at one. The hours.
Oh yes,
It's
oh yes,
for
I
like
know.
4 in the morning.
I know, I know. I had my own bakery and I used to wake up at 4:15 in the morning, so I know what it's like. That's why I think
Oh,
I really love this book. I love this series.
That's awesome. I love that you had a bakery. Oh, that's so you get it. You understand these early mornings that poor Lindsey Bakewell has to pull herself out of bed. So anyhow, so for those of you who don't know the series, the first one in the series is Murder at the Beacon Bakeshop, and it's a series that centers around Lindsey Bakewell, who, when you meet her at the very first book, she's got a really good career going. She's an investment banker on Wall Street. She's got an up and coming celebrity chef. Like, she's engaged to a man who's up and coming celebrity chef, and she finds out that he's cheating. And so she goes home, she anger bakes, drinks a bottle of wine. She has a big Newfoundland dog that is not apartment friendly, but she loves this dog. It was an impulse purchase. You learn that this big Newfoundland named Wellington, but that's her dog, that's her best friend. And so she drinks a bottle of wine, bakes some cupcakes, and does a little online shopping. And then the next morning, she realizes she bought a lighthouse on the shores of Lake Michigan. And and the reason I put that in there is because the time I was writing this, my husband kept looking on the internet for lighthouses. We have a lot of lighthouses in Michigan, as Patsy, and some of them are for sale, so decommissioned, whatever. So I do love lighthouses. I knew I wanted to center my story around a lighthouse. I love baking. I love Lake Michigan. I thought, let's just combine all that. And a touch of the paranormal too, because I do love lighthouse stories, and a lot of them that I visit have a bit of a ghost story or a history attached to these lighthouses. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to wrap it all in one? So the premise of the story is that Lindsey Bakewell decides to just embrace this folly of buying a lighthouse in Michigan and just open up her dream job, her dream bakery, and just leave New York City. And so she does. She moves to Beacon Harbor, renovates the lighthouse. Her dog is so happy because her dog loves water. And there she runs her bakery, and she's also met her hunky neighbor who there's a love interest there. Her best friend is still from New York. Her best friend is actually English, an influencer, lived in New York, and she visits Beacon Bakeshop quite a bit because she has a thing for the cop in town. That's the premise. That's the characters. When we meet him in book 6, Murder at the Lemonberry Tea, Kennedy Kapoor, who is Lindsey's very best friend, bestie, she promotes Lindsey very well. She wants the bake shop to do great. And Lindsey's bake shop has been growing. So Kennedy surprises her and says, look, there's this British cookbook diva. Her name is Vivi Lemonberry. She's got a new series coming out in a new cookbook, and she's starting in America. It's called Nibbles from Across the Pond. And she arranged for Vivi Lemonberry and her crew to come film their first episode of this foodie cookbook TV show for the UK at the Beacon Bakeshop. So they decide to throw the Lemonberry tea for Vivi Lemonberry, and she was going to come and show Lindsey how to bake a Bakewell tart, which happens to be Lindsey's last name. So her girlfriend does this for her. She involves Lindsey in this, and then Kennedy's mother, her grandmother, and her younger sister are huge fans of Vivi. So they come for the week and they stay at the lighthouse with Lindsey. So there's a lot going on in Lindsey's life. She's trying to throw this big tea. She's got this person who comes in. She doesn't know much about her. She hears she can be a little difficult, but when she meets her, she really likes her. She really admires Vivi Lemonberry. But soon things happen. Vivi's a bit of a train wreck, and she's got a lot of baggage that she brings from the UK with her. Murder does happen. There's a lot of baking. I don't know if I should say much more.
One of the things about the book, I love the premise of the UK diva coming over. We've all been watching the Great British Baking Show, which I love to watch. Don't you love to watch that show?
Oh, me too. That's what inspired the Bakewell tart. And I would watch it. I haven't watched it recently, but those early episodes, like when it first came out, I was obsessed. And I have one of my best friend, my bestie, who happens to live in Wisconsin. Her husband's British. And so I think they introduced me to the Great British Baking Show first. And this was when maybe they were getting it from some channel from the UK, but pretty soon then it was on Netflix. And so I was obsessed with it. But one of the episodes, Mary Berry makes a Bakewell tart. And I just was like, what is a Bakewell tart? I'm fascinated by this. I actually, a little secret is that I named Lindsey Bakewell after the Bakewell tart in the hopes, or with the thing, the hopes that if the series lasted long enough, I'd be able to bring a Bakewell tart into the series.
No, now you did. Now you
I know.
did.
I love the name Bakewell, and I'm like, it has a lot of different meanings to it, but it's also the place where this tart, had originated, according to the history of the Bakewell tart, which I did a deep dive in also for this book. But I was really excited about that. So British food is not, I'm not super familiar with it. And that's one of the fun things about this book. I know American scones very well, right? Scones, we've Americanized them, and I make fun of it in the book because our scones are a little sweeter. We put a little icing on them. We fill them with delicious things. A true British scone is more like a biscuit. It's a little drier, not as much sugar in there. But where their scones become wonderful is that they put, a homemade jam and some clotted cream on there.
Cream.
Clotted
yeah.
cream. Yeah. In fact, I had just made some the other day to test a recipe in my next food and spirits book, which I just finished. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm just coming off that whole thing. So literally I finished it. I just finished editing it today. It's going to be.
I moved to England when I was 21 and bought a cottage there.
Oh my gosh. Do you have pictures? Oh, I would love a cottage in England. I think of that a lot.
And a very old cottage, and I renovated it, brought it back to life in the original, because when I got it, they had covered up. There were 4 fireplaces in the cottage. They plastered them up. The minute I saw the place,
oh yeah, you're like, I have to have
this. When I got to the place, I saw all the chimneys. I said, "There's fireplaces in there somewhere," and I think they must have been hippies or something from the look of it. To cover the oak beams with acoustic tiles was insane, but they wanted to be modern.
Crime. That is a decorating crime.
It is. I love England. So that's why I really got a kick out of this one, having the UK diva, because it really sings to me, this whole thing. So I love that. And
the British, the way they write, and they're a little more, I love reading, what is it, Hello Magazine from the UK, and they're just such clever writing, and I read a lot of British or UK writing, and they're very funny. They can be very catty or very backhanded in their writing, and I find it hilarious. Just so sharp. Their wit is so sharp and so fun. So Vivi Lemonberry was a little bit inspired by, oh gosh, her name drops out of my head. I can't, my mind is, a cookbook diva in the UK. Oh my gosh. Nigella Lawson. She's gorgeous. And my friend's husband was like, oh, have you seen Nigella? Men like to watch her because she was very sexy in the kitchen. She brought sex into food. And I don't think we've ever seen that. Do you know who Nigella is? She's wonderful, but she also moves in the high circles and has married, maybe divorced a little bit. I don't really know much about her, but I just saw this gorgeous, and she's beautiful, this gorgeous chef, cook. And it's not her. I don't want to get in trouble, but like she inspired this kind of aging foodie lifestyle icon that is trying to make a comeback after some questionable choices she's made in her life. But yeah, the food and just the charm of the UK. I would love to bring listen to me, a book into the UK, but we'll see. I think the best I could do is bring Kennedy's English family, which her English grandmother, who's like the quintessential English grandmother that I would picture, living in like a cottage, like you just described, maybe in the Cotswolds. And then the mother's a little more posh, a little more uppity. And then the sister is just got a chip on her shoulder. And I thought, how fun to have this dynamic of these generational women in a lighthouse with Lindsey, who's just a tea party in Michigan, yes, on the lake shore. I think they called it the seashore or something too, and they're like, no, this is a lake. This is a lake. It's not the ocean. Because a lot of people come to Michigan, and we have some spectacular beaches up that way. And when you get on these gorgeous beaches and you look out across, you can't see the other side for sure. It's a very long way across that lake, and some people are confused by that.
Yeah, you go up to
Copper Harbor and Superior is just
absolutely. You have all these white beaches, beautiful,
Stunning,
It's, um,
gorgeous.
people are always so surprised when I say there are beautiful white beaches.
Oh, it's like the Caribbean up there now.
It,
It's so clean and fresh, and you can see so far into the water. I almost hate talking about it because you
you
want
don't
to
want anyone
stay there,
don't want
but
anyone to go there actually.
Superior is truly one of the most gorgeous places lakes I've ever seen. I like Michigan because I've always lived around it, but oh, Lake Superior is just another level. It is spectacular and so much history, so much shipping history and lighthouse lore up that way. I'm fascinated by that too, coming from a historical fiction background, and I used to write historical fiction before I moved into cozy mystery. So that's why some of it might have a little more of a historical bent to it, like with the Captain Willie Riggs, my lighthouse ghost. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
fun Michigan lighthouses.
again, it's sort of think of a character and you start running with her, like you did with Vivi. I thought you just, in a very short, like a few sentences, a few words, you captured her, and it was
Oh,
really that was so good for me to have that
oh, I'm
little.
honored to hear that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. You never know on this side of the page how what you have in your head and how you get it out of your head onto that page, how other people are going to react to it. And I find that fascinating. So thank you.
Yeah, well,
But I'm glad you liked Vivi. She's a kind of a character that's a little tragic, and you like her, but you also don't like her.
yeah, there's a
So this
lot people will discover about her. But
Mhm.
when you, so as you said, I know that you, of course, did historical books, but when you decided to do this series, was it your agent's idea, your idea? Did you come out with the idea? How did it happen?
So what happened? And it's oh my gosh, the publishing industry can be crazy. Of anybody who's trying to publish a book out there, God bless you. It is probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And so I started out writing historical fiction, which is what I really loved reading at the time. This was years ago. So I got my first book published in 2010. Was so excited. It was with Random House, Valentine Books in print of Random House. And I got 2 books into it. They were standalone, and I was writing my third. And I realized then, and nobody said anything, but they were like, we're crunching the numbers. We don't, because they didn't offer another contract. And what that really means is that I didn't sell enough books to warrant another shot at being published. So once you get in, it's hard getting in, and then you get in and you're like, okay. So I was crushed. I was crushed because I had this beautiful work of historical fiction ready to go, and I had more of it. And my agent at the time was very honest, and she said, look, I just can't sell what you write right now. Write a mystery. Why don't you write a mystery? You'd be good at writing a mystery. And that's all she said. And I think I came against it like I would hit a wall. Like, I started out doing this. I love doing this. What is a mystery? And then finally, I realized that maybe I should, if I wanted to get published again, maybe I should try this. So I wrote a mystery, and I made it very modern, very fun. And the first mystery series that I wrote, now I did not know at the time that I had written a cozy mystery. I've said this to many people before, but the kind of mysteries I like to read were the fun, the maybe Miss Marple, or those cozier mysteries that are more community based. They're not horrific. The murders happens off screen. And I love that. And I love it with a little bit of humor. So the first thing I did was I set the book in on the other side of Lake Michigan in a place called Door County, Wisconsin, where I spent much of my childhood. And I wrote this book. I set it on a golf course because I thought it'd be funny. It was Caddyshack meets Scooby Doo is how I described it, but it was fun. It was centered around a town called Cherry Cove. And of course, my then agent didn't like it at all. And I ended up shopping it around, found the agent that I was with now who specializes in what is called cozy mysteries and mysteries, but cozier style mysteries. And she gave me some very good advice. And she said, you set this on a golf course. And golf course is a leisure time pursuit, and leisure time pursuits don't sell. So right there, she was telling me like she's looking for a way to sell what I was writing. She asked me to change it. I put it on a cherry orchard. And I then realized that I needed a hook, which I also had no idea I needed in this industry. And so I thought, how about cherry baked goods? So I actually It's called the Very Cherry Mystery Series. She right away was able to sell that book as a 3-book deal. So here I am again writing at this. I'm having so much fun. I found something else I love to do. I got 2 books into it, and the publisher decided to disband the Mystery House. So again, I was left alone. Now, those books had just come out, so they didn't really have time to get traction. In hindsight, it was probably the best thing that happened to me, because what happened then was my agent was like, "Look, you're not, don't write that 3rd book. You need to switch gears. We need to pitch something else." And so right now I was gearing up towards my haunted lighthouse tale for Cherry Cove. And I thought, if I had to do it again and I was doing it again, I wasn't going to limit myself to cherry baked goods, because it's hard to rhyme cherry baked goods with murder. The first one was cherry pies and deadly lies. Then I had cherry scones and broken bones. And the third one, I'm like, what? Cherry cake and the haunted lake? I was just really trying to figure out cherry kringle. I don't know. Like, I was struggling. And so this golden opportunity arose. And so I switched it to Beacon Harbor, because I've lived in Michigan now for about, 22, 23 years. So I've lived here long enough that I should know the state. I love lighthouses, so I decided to set it in the lighthouse. And I just automatically thought of Lindsey Bakewell right off the top of my head, because I was watching a lot of British baking show at this point in my life. And so that's really how it happened. I fell into cozy mystery writing, and then I fell into this again, all because publishing is as crazy as it is. And I am so grateful, actually, because at the time I was like, oh, do I want to do this again? Do I want to get in and then just get kicked out again, or have something happen? Because it was like 2 books, change industries. And boy, I'm glad, because there was a point where I was like, maybe I should do something else. And I thought, I'll give it one more shot. And that was the Beacon Bakeshop mystery series. So that's how this series came about. It was a journey, and it still is a journey.
I think it's a good thing it did, because it's a great series. Why did you introduce Welly or Wellington? Everybody, usually cozy mysteries have a dog, a cat, or something. But I think Wellington is a great choice. Is he
Thank
based
you.
on a dog that you had?
Yeah, so I've always been obsessed with, harken back to my history days, I was obsessed with the Lewis and Clark expedition when I was young, like in my teen years. And they had a Newfoundland dog with them on that expedition. And so when I got old enough, I always asked my parents for Newfoundland. We had a Mastiff, but they never really got a Newfoundland. So we bought a Newfoundland when my husband and I were married. Big dogs, drooly dogs. But what is so cool about the dogs is that they are really known for water rescue. And so I now have a golden retriever and a Springer Spaniel. They're somewhere here with me. They're both water dogs as well, but the Newfie is just on a different level, and they're so lovable and gentle. So I knew that when I was going to write about this lighthouse, and a woman living at a lighthouse, of course she should have the ultimate water dog with her, which would be this big treat-loving, donut-loving Newfoundland named Wellington. And I named him after an English. He has a very Englishy name.
Yes,
Welly
that's
is
what I thought. I think
so,
that's
and
also why I gravitated to him, because he has a very British name.
Very distinguished name. So he's the Duke of Wellington. Also, beef Wellington's pretty delicious too. So but I think it's funny to name like a drooly dog after have him have this very, very stately name. And he lives up to it. He's a great dog. He's one of my favorite characters to write, because I do work with dogs here, and they beg. One of them is a champion beggar. The other one is a passive beggar, but they're in the water like every day. And sometimes they drool, but their dog energy just inspires me. I love animals. I don't have a cat because I'm allergic. A lot of my friends are like, why don't you put a cat in your stories? And it's for the reason that I've never lived with a cat. Not that I don't love cats. I would love to have a cat, especially a very fluffy one, like a really fluffy one. I would love that. But the 2 dogs are enough right now. But yeah, the Newfoundland is one of my favorite breeds. And I'm tormented because my Google searches, because I love to find Newfoundlands that I sent to the publisher for the cover. And believe me, there's Newfoundlands out there. I think the last one I did, I wanted Wellington to wear a fishing hat, because we're going to be up in the UP. There was a Newfoundland. I Googled Newfoundland wearing a fishing cap, And lo and behold, I don't know if he was actually wearing a fishing cap, but somebody put a wacky hat on a dog, and I sent it to the publisher. He needs a hat on in this cover. That'll be the cover coming next. But he's always getting into trouble. He's always on the cover. He's always doing a little mischief. But yeah, Newfoundlands are very near and dear to my heart. All dogs are. But for Lindsey, it really wasn't even much of a thought. It just, she's going to have a Newfoundland. And it's going to be really big and drooly.
Here you are. You start out a new series, and you start off with Lindsey. Where did you base her off of anything, or how did you come up with that name, that character? I understand, because Bakewell, as I said, with the British baking show, everybody was watching how to make a Bakewell tart.
Yes. Oh, and I thought that being a baker, you do need. There's a lot of math involved, a lot of chemistry involved. And at the time, I think my brother was working on Wall Street, and I was chatting with my younger brother who used to own the bakery. And I'm like, look out the window. What does it look like? And I would just ask him. I've been to New York, but he was more working in finances and stuff. And I'm not great with numbers by any means. Like, I choose writing for a reason. I can balance a checkbook, but my kids are very math centered, and I admire it. But I knew Lindsey was going to be very good with her finances. And I knew that she was going to have an affinity for numbers. And but she was also a good baker, because baking is, as you learn in the first book, her grandparents used to own a bakery in Traverse City. So she's not unfamiliar with the area. Her father grew up in the Traverse City area. So and the name Lindsey, I like it. I have all sons, and I was always like, if I had a daughter, Lindsey was one of the names I would name her. So I think all my female characters are a little bit like my children, especially the main character. So Lindsey's a little bit like my nieces. She's vibrant, but she's steady. Lindsey's she's got her head screwed on right. She's given a little bit to flights of fancy, but she's pretty much of a very hard worker, curious, and she really likes running a bakery. She really likes running her own business. And she gets a lot of joy when people eat what she makes and say, oh, this is delicious. That just makes her feel like she's accomplishing something. So I think, the Lindsey, the name, that her background is in finance, I think helps her run her own business. It makes it more believable. She wasn't struggling by any means. She's a very successful person in her own right, but this is a new venture. This is a big leap for her in this bakery. And she knows how to expand her business pretty well. So she's got that kind of a mind. And I really like writing about somebody who is very confident in her own abilities. Yes, everybody questions whether they can do something or not. She does that quite a bit, but she's a very fun character to write. Yeah, so I look at my characters a little bit like my children.
It's funny. I like that she's good with numbers.
There's a lot of failed businesses. I live in a small town. We have bakeries come up. We have little sweet shops come up all the time. It's hard to run a business. It really is. And so I admire I love entrepreneurs. I admire the entrepreneurial spirit like so much. And I love talking to people who, like you, who start their own companies. I wish that I would have gone to your bakery. Where was your bakery located? Where was it? In the UP?
Originally in the UP, then I was in England. I had 8 stores in England. So
oh, my goodness. And a confectionery.
And it was basically the same thing, because I also had the factory that made fruit and nut covered chocolate.
Oh, I bet you have some great recipes. Oh. Did you ever make a Bakewell tart? Did you ever?
No, I didn't do Bakewell tarts. But now we have it in the back of the book, so everybody can do Bakewell.
Yeah, and it's worth trying. I have a picture. I think I put it on my Facebook. I've made it a few times. It's so different. It's delicious. It's very sweet. It's a lot like a tart and a cookie, but that raspberry filling is, so it's got almond, almost like an almond cake over. It's a pastry. And we have a bakery uptown here in my little town that makes them, but they make them more like a muffin. So I thought that was very interesting, because the one that I made is very much like a tart, long and low. I don't know. The pictures of it are on my Facebook, but it was fun to make. It's a little difficult. Highly worth it. So yeah, my family ate that thing up in no time. Great with coffee, maybe tea if you like tea.
In case you're not up to cooking, people can always try the lemon drop martini, which
oh yeah. Yes. I always try to I'm not a huge drinker myself, so it's funny for me to mix drinks. I'm like, I look at a lot of recipes, and then I have friends come over who know way more about it. But this one was so good. It's it tastes like lemonade. It's so darn good and refreshing in the summer. So that is a fun one. That is one that I will drink.
Exactly. So once you had Lindsey set, you're starting off really from scratch with cozy mysteries. You need certain characters. So
Right.
how did you do that? How did they come about one after another?
Yeah, so it's like a world building thing. And that's a kind of, I think, what I had to think a lot about why I was attracted to the cozy mystery. Because there's a lot of mysteries where you have one person, they might be detective, they might be professional, a police or whatever, and they're always doing this high octane thing. I like the community, I like the friends. And so I thought for me, it's always fun to put, and because I grew up with brothers and I have all sons, I love putting like stronger male characters in there. I feel I write a man fairly well, having so much experience raising them and growing up with them, and a husband who I'm still raising. No kidding. So I thought it would be fun to have, and I've never had a sister. So it was really important for me to have a friend, like a friend for Lindsey, who, because Lindsey doesn't have a sister either. She's an only child. And it was important for me to have somebody in her life that was successful on her own journey, but so very different. They look night and day. Like Lindsey's more blonde and fair, and her mother, which is super funny, and I don't know why I did this. I think harking nod to the 80s, the era I grew up in. Her mother is a ex-80s supermodel, and her father, Lindsey's is, and her father is a Wall Street banker. So she's got this father who's good with numbers, and her mother's kind of ridiculous. But her friend is very much like her mother. Kennedy is more in the fashion world. She's an influencer. She's good at what she does, but she's a hoot. And so some people cannot stand, some of my readers just really don't like Kennedy. And I think that's really funny because Kennedy, in real life, if she was your friend, she'd be a little bit trying, but she would teach you so much. There's so much that opposites attract, right? Sometimes you have to be pulled out of your comfort zone. And that's the role of Kennedy. Kennedy's funny. She's lively. She's ridiculous. She's very ridiculous. And then I wanted Lindsey to have like a good Michigan, strong type of Michigan guy as a love interest. And that's where Rory comes in. It's funny because like you'll get some reviews where people really are annoyed by him. They really don't like him. They won't read this story because he will hunt. And I'm not a hunter personally, but most of my neighbors are hunters. You know what I mean? So I get where people sometimes are a little bit up, but this is a very traditional
Michigan.
He's Michigan, and he's a Michigan guy.
You get used to seeing people driving with a deer attached to their.
Oh, all the time. Yeah, my own kids. And it's not like you're not killing an animal for sport. Like some buddies, I could never. Oh my God, this person kills animals for sport. So I'm like, that's not what they do. That's not what hunting is. But I'm not going to go on along. Rory kind of explains it. Lindsey wants nothing to do with it.
But the freezer is full. Let's just say their freezer is full.
Feeding a family, and they're culling the herd, which needs to be done. There's a lot of science behind why hunting is a good thing for places like Michigan. But anyhow, so I wanted him to be a little different for her because he's not a New York City man. He's not that way. He's a guy's guy. And then there's Tuck, who is just an adult.
And his lumberjack shirt isn't designer.
They're from two different worlds again. And so I think that's also fun. She's attracted to him, but she's trying to figure out what's going on with this guy who lives in this cabin over here. But he loves him. He loves Rory. And he's a fun character to write because he's ex-military, so he knows what he's doing. He's brave. He knows how to go about solving a mystery, or he's not put off by murder. Whereas Lindsey's probably not a big fan of murder. We'll just say that. So it made it fun. And then having another male character in there, Tuck, as one of the main characters is a lot of fun too, because his relationship with Kennedy, like he's infatuated with her, and then they're on again, off again, and people are annoyed by that as well. But I'd rather have the drama in the relationship and on like the supporting character than the main character, really. Because the main character's job to me is like she's running that bakery, she's managing her people, and she's solving mysteries. She doesn't need more drama than that.
Yeah, that's enough. And baking is a drama because
yes,
things can go wrong. Things can go wrong. Oh,
especially when you're baking for other people on a professional level and they're paying for a cake and that cake had an accident. Here's like wedding cakes. We're
Wedding cakes, and you never know with puff pastry. You never
so,
know. Oh, puff pastry can get you in big trouble.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think I even had her like she made puff pastry, but I think I have her actually just using pre-made puff pastry for her stuff because I'm not even gonna talking about making the regular yeast doughs are fine and the breads and all that stuff and the donuts, which are a hassle, as everybody knows, like deep frying anything. It's delicious, but it's messy. And I just didn't want to give her I just want to give her the responsibility of having to make her own laminated pastry dough. So I think I mentioned in one book earlier that they just order it, they buy it pre-made, and she uses it because it is hard.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. And I'm going to make puff pastry this weekend.
Ooh, oh, I bet there's nothing more delicious. Let me tell you. Oh, I know I haven't made it in a very long time, and I cringe at the thought of it. But oh, God bless you. So I bet it's going to be delicious.
Oh, it's going to be great. I make great puff pastry. And of course, making anything with yeast is fun. But I had such cold weather here last week that we had snow
Oh,
in Austin. My goodness,
that is. I know. When I heard that, I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
It was brutal here. It was so bad. My dogs like to go out every day, and I just couldn't keep them out for very long. They would have stayed out longer, but I'm like, nope, 10 minutes. That's all we're doing.
I'm happy the next book is set in the Upper Peninsula.
Summertime in the UP, not winter. In
Yeah,
case you
but
were,
you'll find some very interesting Yoopers up there. I hope you find a few who still talk like
oh,
this,
yeah,
because
yeah.
when I was from up there and when we moved to the city and I talk like this, you can imagine what the people in Detroit did to me when I was a little girl.
oh, I love that. My kids they'll come back they'll always put on their UP accents when they used to come back from college, and they'll be like, oh, hey there, fella. That's nice going. Oh, the way they talked, or they would order, like they go to the drive through and just order from when the UP accents, but they were hilarious. But you're right. They've got a very specific way of talking, and I love it.
We talk
Yeah.
a special way.
It's almost Scandinavian. It almost sounds like
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
fancy. Oh, hey.
little stretching out some of the words.
Yeah. Isn't
If
that
we
fun?
decide to talk to you, because sometimes we just don't talk to nobody.
It's
That's
not
what we
worth
say. We don't talk to nobody.
it. You don't talk to nobody. I love the way you said that. That is very reminiscent of being up in the UP. And there's some great character. I tell people when, like you drive across the bridge to the UP on this side, on the Michigan side, we go across this beautiful bridge. It's very scary. And then you land in the UP, and it's almost like landing back in the 1950s. It's just a little slower, a little more back to nature, I love it.
It's special. That's why many of us didn't like that bridge being built there, because
yeah.
what do we want those trolls to be coming so fast over that bridge?
Exactly. They're going to change everything, and maybe they have.
Yeah, I remember one of my relatives saying exactly that. Don't make that bridge. They shouldn't have made that bridge. Those trolls are coming. Bad enough the cheeseheads are coming.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do anything about that side.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you. So there's a restaurant called, I think it's it's in, before I get to Baraga. Oh, what is the town? But they're known for their giant cinnamon roll, the size of a plate. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Hilltop restaurant.
Yeah.
That inspired some of my baking, obviously. But when I was working on Lindsey, I drove up there and went to that restaurant and ordered their phenomenal sweet roll. I was blown away. It is the largest dang thing, and it's the most delicious, but literally it's the size of a plate, and only in the UP. I think it was ridiculously cheap. I think it was like $3 or $4. Today it would not be that, but that was.
Did you have a pasty when you were up north?
Oh yeah. Oh, and up by, okay, we're going deep into the UP, but is it Starved Rock Monks and the Jam Pot?
Oh yes.
There. I had
best.
the best muffin. Best muffin of my life. I tried to recreate this gingerbread muffin. It was this big. It was like just ginormous.
Amazing.
Smelled like heaven.
It is.
They have amazing bakery, and they make the most amazing jams and jellies. And every time I go up there, I'm like, in fact, I haven't gone up there in a while. You have to stop. Very amazing. So I hope to exploit, not but I hope
do it. It's okay. We like it.
do justice.
You have to have
Do it,
some
Jeff.
thimbleberry jam too. Don't forget the thimbleberry
Oh,
jam.
the thimbleberry jam. That stuff is like gold. It's so expensive.
Yes, my sister-in-law brings it down every time they
Oh,
come
does she
because they
make it?
come.
Does she
They,
make it or does she buy it?
oh, she makes it. She makes it. She makes everything. She's
Oh,
yeah. It's very funny. My brother and sister-in-law were in corporate life for many years.
mhm.
She worked for Hudson's department store. They were
Oh,
all
yeah.
always traveling all over the world. And then one day they decided to move back to the farm.
Oh, that's Lindsay. It's like getting a slower existence where you're just more connected to community and the making your own cookies and breads and baked goods is I find it very cathartic and just something very very human and very connecting. I love it. I'd move to a farm, but I don't think I could take care of it. Not with my
Well,
writing schedule.
I am looking forward to book number 7, but this is book number 6, and you've done a beautiful job with it. It's lots of fun, as I said, with this, just the UK connection, I thought was so much fun. It's a great
Thank you.
read, lots of fun to read.
Gives you
So,
something, yeah, gives you something to look forward to if you ever want to visit Michigan. But yeah, it's combining all of my little things that I love. I'm so happy you enjoyed the book. Thank you so much.
and I think you have a book coming out, another book coming. You want to show us something?
Oh, so this one came out. I have a new series, and this you'll like this because this one is set in the UK. Oh, where's my camera? Okay, I'm going the wrong way.
There.
Oh my God, here we go. It's all backward. I'm using a little laptop that I don't.
Fatal Feast.
Fatal Feast at Bramsford Manor, which is set in where is it? Like well, it's set in Hampshire, England. Is so this is a crazy premise. So I just finished the second book. I got my writing schedule was 3 months behind. I had my mother pass away in the middle of writing my second novel and right before this book came off. So it's been a busy year. But the Fatal Feast at Bramsford Manor came out. It's a September release. And it's about up and coming celebrity chef who's Scottish. Her name is Bridget Bunny McBride. She works in New York City. Actually, she works for a character that's a little bit, she's again, a cookbook lifestyle American diva. And somehow Bunny gets roped into, she's getting her own travel cooking show. And what she doesn't realize is that it's actually connected to a ghost hunting show for, I think it's called Mealtime Network. So it's a crazy concept. So she's using harkening back to my historical fiction days, using the Celtic, like they're like around Samhain, like the stuff that's around like their Halloween celebration. They do something called a dumb supper, which is where they invite their departed loved ones to the table during Halloween or whatever what they call it sound, but they would keep carved gourds, put them in the windows, keep the evil spirits away, invite the good spirits in, and have this big feast. So this ghost hunting show is using that as the stimulus to invite a ghost to the table. And poor Bridget McBride is the one who's going to be cooking for this ghost, and she's not super happy. But so it's a spoofy take on cooking. So there's always going to be cooking in probably most every book I write. So there's a lot of good British food. It's inspired. This is more Englishy food. There's a real ghost story in it. It's the legend of the Mistletoe Bride, which is a real ghostly legend in the UK. And then there's a team of ghost hunters that were actually in Murder at the Pumpkin Pageant when they are. That's one of my Beacon Bakeshop books. That was my Halloween book. You meet the ghost hunters there, Brett Bloom and his team. They lose their jobs during that event, and they are now back with a new idea for a new ghost hunting show so they can keep working. And now we introduce a new character, Bridget McBride. So they go to the very haunted Bramsford Manor, and murder happens. And so now they have to solve a murder as well as figure out this ghost story. So there's a lot going on. It's pretty complex, but it's a lot of fun. There's food too. So there's food, travel. Yeah. And that's the hardest part about writing these books is because I do have to make kind of
everything, yes.
Like a new setting. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So check that one out. That'll be a new series. But definitely if you love baking and lighthouses in Michigan, Murder at the Lemonberry Tea, please.
It's really very well written.
Thank you so very much.
A great book. I was going to say, when you get to England, we say scone, but they
Oh,
still, in many places, they say scone.
fun. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a debate, and I think it depends on where in the country you live. What do you say,
Yes.
scone or scone? I say scone because I'm so American.
Scotland, they tend to say scone.
Scun, scun. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend was giving me a hard time about that. He's like, scun, like bun. It can rhyme with bun. It's scun. And I'm like, it's scone, like
It's
bone.
up. I love Scotland. Spent a lot
Oh,
of
well,
time in Scotland.
you will like the book I just finished. It's I can tell you about it. I'm turning it in. It's called A Spirited Supper at Dundoon Castle, and it revolves around a castle, and this is a true story, a castle that has a ghostly piper. That's this legend of the piper that still haunts this castle. I read about that years ago doing some Scottish history, and I'm like, oh, I want to write about that someday. And that day, that opportunity arrived, and I'm like, doing it. So very Scottishy. We're at a Scottish castle, and there's a lot of bagpiping going on.
Well,
That's
I
all I
think you
can say.
should get yourself some bagpipes and start practicing. And then when you do book signings, you can play the bagpipes.
I will scare everybody away. I went to a Robert Burns night with some friends, and we have a lot of in Michigan. Where I live, a lot of Scottish people, a lot of strong Scottish connection. Our high school is even the Howell Highlanders. I live in a town called Howell, and I went to a Burns night, and they had some excellent pipers there. They have a really renowned piping band, but it was inside. It was inside this big banquet hall, and boy, after about 5 minutes, I'm like, I can't take it anymore. It's so loud. Outside is another story, but inside I was just like, oh my God. When are they going to stop? So I make fun of bagpipes a little bit in this show, but I respect them too. So it's all
Yeah.
in good fun, a little humorous, but got a lot of heart in the food and spirit series as well. So if you like the Beacon Bakeshop, want something a little different, but still fun, the food and spirit mystery series, give it a try too. But all of that's probably on my website.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining me today, Darcy.
My
Fun
pleasure.
talking to
Thank
you.
you
Okay.
so much. Take care,
Okay.
Patsy. It was wonderful chatting with you.
Okay. Bye bye now. Bye.
Bye-bye.
It was so much fun to talk to Darcy Hannah about her book. I love it. It's just fun. And if you love baking, if you love sweets, it's a wonderful book and great recipes at the back. Really nice. And make sure that you can help us by subscribing to Joy on Paper Live. And of course, comment and share. And mostly the comments, because after their interviews, they go to look at their interviews and their families look at them. And so if you make a nice comment, it's really appreciated. You have to remember, authors work so hard on books for so long and they're isolated. And then when they come out, a kind word is really appreciated. So please make a comment below. And if you have an author who you want me to invite, your favorite author, just write a comment and put the name in there and let me know, and I will invite them. I love to talk to authors to help them promote their books. So please just click that button and subscribe to Joy on Paper Live. Thank you so much. Bye bye now.